Six for Dallas, one timeout left. Pressure on, and as he throws to the end zone. Ruled down the one is Cooks. Prescott looking to throw inside for the touchdown with Gallup. Good time to be a Cowboys fan. The Dallas Cowboys impressive here tonight. Philly and Dallas split the season 200. Clash between both of those guys, and maybe they'll see each other for a third time.
This is Rafi Guzon, and you are tuned in to Nothing But That Sports Talk. Yeah, not a good outing for the Philadelphia Eagles as I welcome to this episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafiq Lewison alongside Carmen from Hoops with Carmen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I started off talking about the Eagles, and I know you're an Eagles fan too, watching one of your photos you wearing that jersey. So, yeah, thoughts on the Eagles loss in Dallas?
As someone who follows just sports fan, especially being from Philadelphia, last night's performance by the Eagles was definitely embarrassing. They really didn't show their best on any facet. And at this point, I'm kind of wondering, when will their best come? Because I feel like every week we talk about how Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles have not given their best full game. And it's like, when is that going to happen? We're now, going deep into the season, and it's like, it just was embarrassing. I mean, I felt like the Eagles really didn't defensively, just couldn't cover man to man, can't stop the run, just simple dumb penalties kept happening, and it was just like they just kept kicking themselves in the mouth. Like every time they try to make a little step, it's like something would happen. And then you gotta give credit to the Cowboys. Their defense, Gilmore literally had everyone who was on lock, and they played a great game. You can't knock the Cowboys for their efforts. I feel like their coaching was like on another level. I think they kind of knew what the Eagles were going to throw out, and they were ready for that. And I think the Eagles just looked very stale on offense. And then, the turnovers, fumbling the ball, turning over the ball just hurt them so much. They tried to get something going and they just turned it over. You lose the ball. And I think it's been an ongoing thing with the Eagles. They found ways to win. So it's like, okay, it's all good. We fighting through adversity, but it's like, you got to stop coming, are going to happen, but it's like this coming from the behind mentality is not going to get it when it comes to coming to elite teams, elite defenses and offenses. And honestly, I'm not saying to me, just to say, if you look at the Cowboys, I mean, if you look at the teams they've beaten, obviously the Eagles have beaten, better record teams, so it's like, if you look at like the scales, it's like, okay, that's that 1 point, but the Cowboys had a great game. Eagles could have came back, gained themselves, but now they got back-to-back losses, and that's something the Eagles got to look at themselves for, because they have no one to blame but themselves. And just the missteps in coverage and just not really hacking it. I mean, I don't. Yeah. So, the biggest thing with the Eagles in terms of offense is taking care of the ball, and just making plays happen and not having negative plays. I think like last game against the Niners, Jalen kept having negative plays. Like even if nothing was there, things just kept kind of going backward. You got to move forward up the field. You can't cause your team to move back even when nothing's there. You got to kind of make the smart play. And I think in terms of play decisions, play calls, teams know what the Eagles are going to do. It's kind of like, all right, we're going to start with a run. Then we're going to go with a pass. Then we're going to go with a QB run. Like, it's just kind of like the same kind of formula that the Eagles are doing. And yeah, we got very skilled offense. Like, obviously our O-line is great, but you can't be like that when it gets towards these really great teams. And not saying the Cowboys are the best team in the division or in the league, but last night they looked like it because they were just rolling on all cylinders, and the Eagles weren't, and they had opportunities. And they just let it go. And in the second half, the defense kind of came alive more. But in terms of corners, linebackers, stopping the run, just missing tackles, that to me is just inexcusable. Like, you're missing open field tackles. I mean, I understand you got these guys around you, they're big, they're getting away from you. But in terms of just doing the basics of what it takes to win games, the Eagles are just falling short. And they ran the ball. Swift, I love Swift, but he was getting stopped Like he really wasn't being productive last night against the Cowboys. And I think because teams are understanding the Eagles scheme, what they try to do. And, and then when we get some catches, Devontae drops some passes, AJ Brown drops some, when the Eagles have talent, but on offense. Now on the defense, our first line of defense, complete confidence in them. Or anybody secondary, that's a weak point for the Eagles, and it has been. So what is going to be done about the secondary? Because corners, it's just, we're being exposed. So I'm disappointed as the Eagles fan, but just as someone who loves sports, who watches sports, who does analytics on sports, I think the Eagles kind of can't lay on, hey, we take responsibility, we got to come together. No. It's just like, what are y'all going to do to stop these mistakes from happening? Like those penalties, I think they had like 90 yards off penalties lost. I mean, when you're in a game like this, that can't happen. Dumb penalties. So it's like a mental thing, and it's a coaching too, like defensively. I mean, what have y'all done different from that Niners game to this Cowboys game that made a difference in this game, in this loss? I don't know. So the Eagles have a lot of questions they have to ask themselves, because I think it's big part coaching and kind of like not coming out the gate hot. But then I think also it's just personnel. I just think the Eagles in certain positions, they're not matching up. And what can be done at this point in the season? I don't know. So it's up to schemes at this point. Because if we got the personnel that they got, what are you going to do to kind of work off the strengths that you do have? Because I don't think the personnel is changing much at this point. So what can be done?
Yeah, this Philadelphia Eagles offense is kind of something to question, because, as you mentioned before, they're not doing enough to stop the run. And even though they had games where they didn't do well, but they ended up winning at the end in victories against Kansas City and Buffalo, it's just there's such thing as not enough offense when you go up against the 49ers. There was a reason why the Niners were favored to win last week's game. I don't talk about yesterday. I'll talk about like the week before last week. And there was a reason why they weren't the favorites to win yesterday. Obviously, because the Dallas Cowboys are defeated, and yeah, this is not this. They kind of at least they're still 10-3 or 9-4, I should say, but they have to get that straightened out in order to make the playoffs. Like seriously, I mean, not the playoffs, but I'm talking about like surpassing the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East.
Right. And I mean, with the remaining schedule, I think the Eagles have a good chance of winning the division, because their opponents are they're not the best teams, and the Cowboys have kind of a harder schedule going forward. So the Eagles still have a chance to win the division, but it doesn't even matter about winning the division. Like, who cares? It's about you getting into the playoffs and winning games and getting to the real motive here, which is the Super Bowl. And if you get to the Super Bowl against, whoever, say it is, the Ravens, I don't know, the Chiefs, who knows? But the problem is the Eagles have a lot of holes in personnel, like I said, and it's like, what kind of coaching is going to change to address that? Because who we have is who we have. But what are you going to do to coach better, to scheme better, to prepare better, to make more in-game adjustments, to do things differently? Because it's like, when you got what you got, okay, but it's about coaching, and it's about being able to kind of step up in these moments. I mean, blowing tackles, you can't, like, whoever comes in, you can't teach that. You're blowing tackles in the middle of the field. That's your one job.
They have to do a better job of taking care of the football, as they already had like a couple of fumble losses against this game against the Dallas Cowboys, and Jalen Hurts has to get more involved in the offensive end. I mean, he's gotten involved in the offensive end, but I'm talking about like recently he's been kind of shaky, and obviously when he gets that late season playoff push, everything that was working for you in the second half, it tends to get figured out eventually, especially when you're going up against a team that you're facing 2 times a year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in terms of Jalen and his turnovers, they're becoming costly. Like, he's able to usually like bounce back and make up for it. But it's like that last night against the Cowboys, his fumble obviously was just one. It caused them to get 3 points. And then them not having one offensive touchdown? Like, is the Cowboys defense really that good? Or is the Eagles offense really not schemed well and Jalen is just not, and the reads aren't there? Or is Jalen not seeing it? Or is he not making the right play? It's just kind of like, it's hard to decide what it is. But to not have one offensive touchdown in a game with the offensive line that we have, that the Eagles have, I think that's crazy to me. That's a crazy stat. And then the Cowboys just racking up the points. Just every opportunity they're scoring. They're making something out of every drive. And the Eagles just couldn't do it. And then I think it was bad decision making too. Like certain plays, certain things that were done. It's just like, what's happening? And then like not being aggressive enough. I feel like the Eagles kind of shut it away when it came to this moment. Like they weren't being as aggressive as they usually would be. And then of course, they went for it on that fourth and 9. And Devontae caught it, but then Gilmore got him right in the middle of the field, and they lost on downs. But it's like that pass was low, and I watched it. That pass was low. Not saying that one thing is gonna make a difference because the game was kind of over at that point. But I'm just saying that like it's just the little things. Like if the pass may be higher, maybe he could have like kind of turned right away and ran out. But it was low. He had to catch it low, and then he had to come around kind of to go up, and then he got tackled. So it's just like the little things, precision, decision making, coaching, doing what they can do with what they have, and just scheming better. And when in-game things happen, what are you going to do to change it? And then Blankenship went down. That's definitely going to hurt the Eagles. Not like he's been solid in that position. And like I said, the corners are very weak. So the Eagles, I just think the Eagles can be a great team, but it's just like coming from behind is not the way to win games. You need to be attacking and executing from the beginning. Running the ball, I think, is great. And I think the Eagles can run the ball well. But it's like you got to change up your schemes, your patterns, because teams are knowing. It's really like first play run, second play throw, third play possible QB sneak, like I said, or QB run. Like this is stuff that I can see. Everyone else can see it. Change it up. What is going to be done to like kind of make the Eagles the best they can be at this moment? I don't know. It just sucks because it's
very tough to watch. I mean, and I will talk about the Eagles. This is the same Eagles that were the Super Bowl last year, barely losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, and you beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Monday Night Football, and then not too long before that, you struggled to beat the Washington Commanders, and the Commanders are almost as bad as the New York Giants. And then earlier this year, you took an L to the New York Jets, the one franchise that the Eagles have owned in life after Jalen Hurts threw an interception. So, yeah, the Eagles, I mean, I know they're good, but when you look at the losses they've had and the games where they had to come back and win, they tend to be wishy-washy. And that's going to be a little bit concerned by the time the playoffs come around, especially this next Monday, you got the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, look. Even with that, the game against Kansas City, if Scantling would have made that catch, I don't think they would. So it's like the Eagles. Here's the thing: a win is a win. If another team fumbles or messes up, then that's a win for you, regardless. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying that some of the wins were banked upon the other team making mistakes, and that's cool and all. But it's like you as a team have to be better. And I think the Eagles, they know, but they're not the same team as last year, though. They lost a lot of key components on both sides. They picked up
a lot of key components during the NFL draft last year and I remember Marcus Spears was not too happy about.
Yeah. So the Eagles lost. They're not the same team that they were. They're not as strong as they were on the defensive line, on the defensive end. But I still think the front row, like the linebackers and our front protection of defense, they're great. Like Reddick, he's great. They're all great. But I just think Carter, but like I said, it's just the secondary is it's just been such a problem, but it has not even been addressed. Like I know we brought in Bayard and he really hasn't done much. I know we brought in Shaq, Leonard. I mean, he really didn't get that many ticks this past game. So I know they're trying to bring in pieces, but I just think the corner position in this offseason has to really be addressed because it's just getting embarrassing. Like they're just getting crapped on. And I'm not talking about, and I think Darius Slay has made a lot of great plays and, he can come up clutch. I'm not coming at him, but I just think that it has to be even keeled. Like I think Devontae and AJ are kind of even keeled. Like they both have their strengths, but they're both really great, like on the same trajectory. When it comes to the corners, I think Slay, he's definitely been crucial, but I think on the other end, things have to change. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, a lot has to change. And well, as I mentioned earlier, we got look at their main schedule. We have the the Seahawks. Then 2 of the final 3 weeks are against my New York Giants. I'm a Giants fan, by the way, and then the Arizona Cardinals in week 17. So at home.
Winnable games, and they need to win them because they lost back to back twice. So now they need to win these games. They have to win these games.
Even though I'm rooting for my Giants because we have somewhat of a slim chance of making the playoffs, depending on what happens tonight against the Green Bay Packers and the week after that against the New Orleans Saints, prior to those 2 of the final 3 slugfests against the Philadelphia Eagles during 2 of the final 3 weeks. Yeah, you guys have a better chance. Your playoff team. I know you were happy when you slandered my Giants in the NFC divisional playoffs last year.
I mean,
all the offense you had last year to slander my New York Giants, you barely did enough to win the 9 games you have on your schedule this year.
I mean, look, it's always good to beat the Giants, but you know, I mean, here's the thing. I'm a Saquon fan. I love Saquon Barkley. He's a Penn Stater. I went to Penn State. So I'm real big on him. So, you know, I'm rooting for Saquon, but the Giants, not so much. But look, I mean, hey, at this point, the Eagles, they got to show that they really can execute games from beginning to end, no matter who the opponent is, because any opponent has an opportunity to win in an NFL game. It's just what it is. So the Eagles got to prove that they can really win a game from beginning to end. I'm tired of this comeback from like it's the character and the personality of the Eagles is kind of like underdog, it's kind of gritty, and that's great, and I embrace that. But thing about it is you can be gritty, but you need to be polished and kind of like you got to have your ish together. Like, look, we gritty, we're tough, but when people play us, they know we're coming with everything and we're coming right, like all the way through. And that's how the Eagles got to be. Not like, oh, the comeback kids. Like, no, like no one wants to be a comeback kid when it's like that. That's and honestly, as an Eagles fan, that's too much stress. It's honestly stressful. It's like watching the Eagles. It's like not fun sometimes because it's like you're watching it and you're yelling and you're screaming and it's like, oh my God, what is gonna happen? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna win? Are they gonna like? It's just like it's too much. Like just execute, be excellent, and just go about your business. That's it. Like the Eagles need to really just step up their standard, and the coaching has to be better. And Jalen cannot turn the ball over. His turnovers, whether it's only one a game that was last game, it can change the trajectory of a game. And you're the leader. You're the QB. You got to be better. It's not about your leadership. It's about you with your actions on the field. We know you're a great leader, but what are you going to do to be better on the field to stop with your turnovers and the things that you've been doing? Like it's not about his leadership. Everyone knows he's a great leader. It's about the other part.
And and everything else you just mentioned is one of the reasons why the Philadelphia Eagles have only had about like 3 victories by more than a single possession, but every 6 like 6 of the 9 victories you've had so far this season have been by by less than 7 points or less than 8 points. It's good that you learn how to win these close games, especially in close fashion, but you gotta do more than that, and you need to be committed to doing more than that if you're going to get that first Super Bowl win since I believe 2017 or 2018 against the Patriots, a team that my Giants defeated twice. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles definitely have to look at themselves hard in the mirror. Coaching has to be better. I know they're both on both ends. On the offensive, the coordinators are both new, and I understand that. But it's like, listen, the Eagles want to get a championship, get another Super Bowl now. Like, what's up? Like, you got to step up to the plate. You're signed on to a big franchise, a big expectation in the Eagles. Not too far gone from a Super Bowl win. So the coaching, the scheming has to be better because regardless of whatever personnel we have, what are you going to do with that personnel? How are you going to adjust
to make better decisions on the passing offense?
Yep.
And everything you just said, and you described everything that's more to the Philadelphia Eagles offense than just Jalen Hurts. The receivers had to get more involved in catching the ball. The running back had to be more involved. Swift and AJ Brown could only do so much.
And, you know, honestly, when I saw like Gainwell run it or Scott, I feel like they get better yardage sometimes in Swift. And I love Swift, but it's like people got to get shaken up here. We got to keep moving it, keep changing looks, like, you know, throwing Gainwell, throwing Scott, you know, like let's whatever's working, do that. Like if it's not working, do something else. because you don't have time for, especially when you come from behind like the Eagles are doing against the Cowboys. And then it's just penalties. As you saw, those penalties really killed the Eagles. Every step of the way, there's just dumb penalties. It's like you're just giving them the game. You can't do that. It's just, just like you saw with the Kansas City game last night, when Tooney had his foot on the line. He was in the infraction area. That caused it to bring the touch.
And you could have easily had 2 losses to the Dallas Cowboys if it wasn't for that last minute defense in the win in Philadelphia.
Yeah. So it's like you got to play smart. You got to play a full game, and you have to execute and make in-game adjustments and change it up. The offense needs like a wake up. Like, y'all are looking real stale and real just basic. And I know the O-line and just the offense, the power, the weapons that the Eagles have is better than that. But it's like the mental. It's mental. The mental has to change. Stop being an underdog. Like, that's the mentality, but like, stop coming from behind. Just win. Win from the rip and execute. Tear them apart from the beginning to the end. That's it. That should be your mentality. The other team is going to do what they're going to do, but your mentality should be, we're going to come back in the second half. No, nobody cares. Win the game. All this, come back in the second half. I understand that like they're a better second half team, but that's like a Philadelphia sports kind of DNA, I feel. Being better in second halves, being better, after they get hit a little bit. It's like, come on, just play well from beginning to end.
Exactly. You see the Philadelphia 76ers have come back, have had moments where they had to come from behind to win. You see that in a couple of games. You had to come from behind to beat teams you're good enough to beat.
Right. Because it's that whole just accepting, like, we didn't play our best. We were kind of asleep in the first half. Like, come on. Like, it's good that, of course, it's always great when teams get it together. Like, you want that. But it gets old. It gets old because, like, if you had to give a grade to the Eagles coaching staff last night, straight F, quarterback, D, like, really. Like, they just.
Winning mindset, enthusiasm, Carmen.
Huh?
I said, I love your winning mindset, Carmen.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be real here. We got to just be real with yourselves. I'm a football fan. I'm a basketball fan. I'm just a fan, regardless of who I root for. And watching the Philadelphia Eagles just go out like that and just be embarrassed like that and just show the world that what people have been saying about the Eagles is true. Like, you just winning. You're not even that good. That's what you're saying. And it's not about, like I said, again, my last thing it's not about leadership. I think that the team has great leaders. They have people who can hold themselves accountable in terms of like, hey, we took a loss, but it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, what is going to change? That's the biggest thing. It's not about like, I know I messed up. Okay, but like, what are you going to do and put that into action?
You got to go out and put in the work.
Right. How are you going to hold the ball better, Jalen? How are you going to try to avoid fumbles and losing the ball? What are you going to do better? What can you do better? What can the O-line do better? What is the scheme going to be better? Defense. What can you do to stay covered on your man? What can you do to not break tackles? Should you be out there on the practice field, like hitting like a movable target for an hour so you can make sure you can grab people's legs and not break tackles? I don't know. I don't know what needs to be done. I've never played football on a professional level. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying if you're getting paid this money and this is what your profession is, it's like you got to perfect your profession and really take pride. And listen, we're going to play a full game. Stop laying on. We haven't played a full game yet. It's basically the season's almost over. When is a full game going to happen? Because it hasn't. And why is that? Why is that? We got to just play a full game. Like, I understand everything's new. You're getting used to new coaches, but it's now, the season's almost over. When is that going to happen? And that's what the Eagles have to ask themselves. Do we have it in us? Is it going to happen with what we have today?
Yep, that could be. Yep, that's something to think about. And you know what? If you were an athlete, then you have to do what the defense presents to you when you're the one controlling the offense. Like if you notice that there's no passing lanes, you got to give it to your running back. Obviously, I know you don't have to play football, but if you had, you probably get a better idea of why the players make the decisions on the offense based on the defense that it gives you. It's just basically what it is.
Right. I hear you. So next week is the Seahawks for the Eagles. Let's see if they're going to not even bounce back. Let's see if they're going to just show up. Not even bounce. It's not a bounce back game. This is the showing up game. This is Eagles who are y'all? What are you really going to do? Are you going to make the playoff? Are you going to do anything in the playoffs? I'm sure they're going to make it, but are they going to do anything? Are you going to make it to the Super Bowl? And if you do get to the Super Bowl, could you, like, honestly, I can't even think about the Super Bowl with the Eagles because it's just like with the personnel, I'm not too convinced just with who the Eagles have on roster. But it's like, if the coaching doesn't change, just forget it. So that's where I stand. I hope the Eagles can get us together because they lose against the Seahawks, 3 losses in a row. I think the hopes for the season are pretty much over.
Yeah, but don't worry. Even if you do lose to the Seattle Seahawks, you got the 2 of the last 3. The last 3 games are against teams with losing records. You should win. You should beat my Giants twice in the Arizona Cardinals. You should win those games. Even though the Cardinals did pick up a big win against the Pittsburgh Steelers and they're trying to get into the playoffs, you should get those victories.
Right.
Do you predict, but win-loss prediction, do you predict them to beat the Seattle Seahawks next week on Monday Night Football?
I'm going to say yes, because I'm hoping that the Eagles can really just show up. But I don't I believe they'll win the rest of the games the rest of the season. But it's just when they get into the playoffs, it's just the coaching and the scheming. Like, is that really going to be like, are they going to address these weaknesses? That's my biggest thing. I think they'll win because, Eagles are proud. It's a proud city. But I don't know what they're going to do in a playoff situation. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see indeed. Now, you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about being a Penn State graduate. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background and how you started journalism? You started from your Penn State University days.
Mm-hmm. Well, I went to Penn State. My major was broadcast journalism. I graduated. Sorry, it's my dog. I graduated with a degree in broadcast journalism. And then after I graduated, I kind of didn't really go the journalist route. I kind of just did other jobs. Like, I was like a director for a nonprofit. And then I pretty much just kind of like traveled and did my own thing. And then in 2018, kind of end of 2017, early 2018, I always knew I loved sports. I've always loved sports. I've been a big sports person my whole life. And then in 2017, going to 2018, hold on, sorry. Sorry. So at the end of 2018, I pretty much decided, okay, I love sports and I have a journalist degree. How can I really go after that? And then I pretty much just started my own podcast, Hoops with Carm. And then when I started Hoops with Carm, I just started to do videos consistently. And that opened up other opportunities for me to be on other podcasts. And then I ended up getting a radio show in Philly, an FM radio show called Running Back Sports Show. And I was on that with 3 other co-hosts. And we did that. And then from there, I went to a journalist conference and I had like a reel of like all the sports stuff that I had done. Cause I used to go out to like different basketball games and like shoot myself, like interviewing people and that kind of stuff. So I pretty much got a job in journalism as a news reporter for an NBC affiliate in Delaware. And then I've just been continuing doing Hoops with Carm, and that's where I'm at today.
Nice. And I did see that you managed to do some, and I did watch some of your reels. Make no mistake about it. You got a pretty amazing voice and you're very talented. Even with the King sign outs, you definitely were speaking the truth and giving a good narrative on all the stuff happening within Delaware.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Delaware was definitely a different kind of environment. Definitely something I learned a lot from. But now I'm honestly just looking for a new opportunity in news or sports as a reporter. And that's where I'm at today. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed my time in Delaware. It's definitely a great experience, but I'm looking for other opportunities. I want to grow and kind of just do more.
Exactly. And in the middle of doing all this, what is the one advice that you were given in order to continue developing your journalism craft?
One advice that I've been given or advice that I would give?
The advice that you were given when you're developing your journalism craft?
I would say the one advice that I got was just, be true to yourself. don't shy away from hard work. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take effort, and it's about meeting people, networking, and kind of just, putting yourself in positions where, you can succeed, and just don't be afraid of the hard work. So much of what you do as a journalist is not seen. So much of the work that goes into these 2-minute videos, a minute 30 videos. It's a lot of work, but it's just, try to protect your craft, get a lot of reps in terms of just practicing over and over and over and being better, and just kind of just going hard at it, and don't give up, just stay the course, and just keep going, because your path is solely your path. Your journey is your journey, and you can't look at anyone else's journey in the journalist world. You got to just go off of, your life and what you're doing, and believe in your talents, because everyone has specific talents and abilities, and you have to just go forthright with that, and just, go hard, and just never, ever doubt, your abilities, because your abilities are yours and your own, and they can't be compared to anyone else.
Exactly. And it's because of that you're able to do stand-ups while attending Philadelphia 76ers game. Like, why don't you talk about the whole backstory of being able to do those stand-ups that you do at Sixers games recently?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been doing hoops to Carm for a long time, and I love sports. I love basketball, and I don't just watch Sixers. I cover Sixers more because that's the area that I'm in, but I watch all NBA, and I could cover it all. But when it comes to the Sixers, I recently have been going to more games, and I bought like a little mic and something for my phone. And I'm like, hey, what do I want to do long term? What I want to do long term is I want to be an NBA analyst. I want to be sideline reporter. I want to be a reporter for NBA teams. I want to be a commentator for national NBA games. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do to like show that I can do that? I got to do it on my own. So I just decided I'm going to go to a game. As soon as the game is over, I just pick a spot, and I just get my mic, and I just talk about whatever I feel like is most interesting from that game. And I just do it. And it's literally kind of, it's funny, because when you're there at the games, they don't really want you to stand in the stadium too long after the game is over. So I kind of had to do it quick, but it's really fun, and I love it. And I know I want to do that for the future in a real way, in terms of doing it for a team. So I said, hey, if I want to do this kind of work, I got to show people that I can do this kind of work. So I just started doing it.
Exactly. And I've seen some people that do journalism work like that, where after the end of every game, they like do a post-game recap, just pretty much talking to himself and talking to fans about the post-game. Like there's a guy called CP the Franchise. He interviews so many fans after every Knicks game he attends, pretty much giving their perspective of what happens after the Knicks loss, which is pretty much what you're doing right now with stand-ups. And I would recommend trying to interview some 76ers fans in the middle of doing this. Since it's Hoops with Carmen. Don't just do stand-ups. Try to do interviewing some fans a little more down in Philadelphia. You know the area very well. Philadelphia, you get your perspective on the type of hunger the Philadelphia fans show towards their teams when you do that. That's my advice to you.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of, well, that's already kind of in the works. I want to move forward and expand it and start talking to people like man on the street type of thing. So that's definitely coming down the tubes. It's just, I want to get a couple reps in, just me kind of in the stadium, but I'm definitely going to move to talking to people and getting people's feedback on what they just saw, whatever game that is, Eagles, Sixers.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And while we're on the subject of the Sixers, let's give your state of the Philadelphia 76ers during the first part of the season, because, well, even you did trade James Harden to the Los Angeles Clippers, but that did not stop the Philadelphia 76ers from having the 7-game winning streak at one point, even though you didn't make the in-season tournament. But I digress. Like, what are your overall thoughts of the way the Sixers managed to contain themselves without James Harden on the roster?
I think giving up James Harden was the right thing to do. I think James Harden, obviously, he's a great player. He was a former MVP, but I think in this point in James Harden's career, I don't think what he was trying to do was really going to work for the Sixers overall. I'm not saying he didn't have an impact on the Sixers, but he's going to give you 16 and 12. Like, he's going to give you those kind of numbers. But James Harden leaving was the right thing, because with James Harden on the team, it's more ball focused, ball heavy, in terms of one person holding the ball, making all the decisions, and everyone else is kind of stagnant. So I think that James Harden leaving was the best thing that could have happened for the Sixers, because it needs to open up the cap space. It needs to make room for more players, because he has such a big contract. It was weighing the Sixers down. So him going was the best thing that could have happened. In terms of where they're at right now, I think what is a plus of the Sixers right now is that they have way more depth in the bench, is what they've lacked for so many seasons. I keep telling people this. I've been like a dead horse. The Sixers have not had depth. And that's been their biggest problem. You look at any team that's won anything, they have bench depth. They have like 2, 3 guys, 4, 3 guys off the bench that can play really well and can contribute. Sixers have not had that. So now the Sixers have added some bench depth. They've added some size. They've added some length. They added some vet experience. So I think that the Sixers are in a way better position in terms of adding to the bench. Do I think the Sixers are missing a piece? I can say that maybe they are missing a piece, but at the same time, I think if Joel and Maxey can play really great and Tobias can kind of show up on a more consistent basis in terms of the bench and having a better coach this year, I think Nick Nurse is a better coach in terms of, making in-game decisions, like switching up the roster, giving people more tick. I think Nurse is better in that regard. So I think having a better coach is going to help them. But if Joel and Maxey can play well, Tobias can be more consistent, and then you have more people on the bench, I think the Sixers can go far, but it's the inconsistencies of the Sixers that kill them every single year, regardless of the coach, regardless of like whoever is playing. The Sixers have the same Philly mentality. They want to come back from behind. They don't want to play a full game. And then also too, just little like mental mistakes that happen with the Sixers. I think that's going to be a big issue. But I think that in terms of where they're at, they were in a better position. But the East, the stakes just went up. Dame is in the East now. The Heat are always like kind of like a contender. And besides just, other people in the East, they have to worry about themselves internally. And I think the Sixers need to come together and say, hey, what is our identity? Who are we? Who are we going to be? Because the Sixers, I feel like they just never know. It's always just changes. Like, what is the Sixers identity? What are they known for? Joel Embiid. Okay, but like, that's one player. Who is the MVP? But it's like, y'all got to be known to do something really well. And I think the Sixers are way too inconsistent. And that's where they got to really focus on the rest, as we're going towards, it's still early in the season, but the Sixers need to focus on consistency and just being, steadfast defensively. I think they really fall short defensively a lot. I mean, when they play great defense, they play great defense. But I think the Sixers need to really just improve on both those facets, like the consistency on both ends of the floor and the consistency from the players. That's the Sixers' biggest issue overall, consistency. Who was going to step up and be consistent? I'm glad that they have more of a bench now, but I do think maybe the Sixers need another piece. But I don't think Zach LaVine is necessarily the answer. I know people are kind of married to the Zach LaVine thing. I don't think that's the answer. He's kind of injury prone. He's a great player, but that's, again, focusing on one player to make a difference. And the Sixers are known for that. They always want to pick the sunshiny, like the superstar pick, like who's going to be the pick that we're going to get, or the person we're going to get that's going to be like, real like clout worthy. Like they got Harden, that's like clout worthy. It's like, make the smart decisions, like not getting Mikal Bridges when they could have had him. That's a big mistake they made. So many big mistakes that they made, that people they could have had. They did, like, even drafting Markelle Fultz over Jason Tatum. The Celtics knew what they were doing, but it's just like they were looking for who's the projected number 1 pick. We want that projected number 1 pick. But was he really the best person to come out the draft that year?
No, not really. It was Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum balled out. He carried the Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals his first season in the league.
This is what I'm saying. So
falling out of his mind. He's the reason the Celtics are relevant right now. And eventually he's going to lead the Celtics to a championship. It was not that many years ago he was in the finals against the Golden State Warriors. Eventually, him and Jaylen Brown will get a championship for Boston, which means Philadelphia has to step up. Joel Embiid, he's having a solid start of the season, averaging about 33 points, 11 rebounds, and almost 2 blocks. But he has to get more help on the offensive end and with the players around him. Tyrese Maxey is going to give you good numbers, but it's going to be more than just Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey in order to have a good run. Maxey, great. That's it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. And I think in terms of the Sixers, their problem has always been bench depth. And I think the Sixers are starting to address that more. We have a better bench. My thing is, it's just like certain players who shouldn't be playing. Like Korkmaz, he shouldn't be playing. He just should not be playing. That's my opinion. He just shouldn't play. But I think the consistency from Tobias Harris is key. He has to be more consistent. He is I think he's the 2nd highest player on the team, maybe the 1st, honestly. His contract is so big. He has to be more consistent. And then Maxi's great, but he has to work in his defense. He has to work in his defense because he's such a great offensive weapon, but defensively he tries and he's gotten better, but he
He only
definitely
averaged about 0.9 steals and 0.7 blocks per game. And he averaged over 1.4 turnovers.
yeah. No, yeah. So I think Maxi has to be improved, but he's great. He's a stud. I love Maxi. I'll never complain about Maxi. But Embiid, he's an all-star, but and here's my thing. If the Sixers do get anywhere at the end of the season, what is Embiid's mentality going to be? Yes, you have suffered a bad loss last season, but what are you going to do to make your team better? Are you going to buck up? Stop crying? Because you need to. Like Embiid, stop crying. Buck up, take ownership. If something happens, you don't just cower. You got to step up and be like, yo, this is my team. We're not going to go down, take this lion down. We're going to do better. And that's what he has to be. He has to be that person because I don't think the Sixers have that. He has to be the anchor. He has to buck up. Stop crying. Buck up. That's what Embiid needs to do. And it's all about attitude and consistency. Do you have a winning attitude? Do you have a never give up attitude? You're going to cower away and shy away because things aren't going your way. What kind of attitude you're going to have? What consistency you're going to have? And can your coach, put the right people at the right times and make the right calls when they need to happen? And that's the biggest thing with the Sixers.
Yep, that's the biggest thing with the Sixers indeed. Well, luckily obviously tonight they got the Washington Wizards. If you want my thoughts on the Washington Wizards game, if eighth day crazy happens, just watch the next episode. Nothing but that sports stuff. But that's besides the point. Now the Washington Wizards, and then of course the back-to-back with the Washington Wizards, back-to-back with the Detroit Pistons. They're awful. And then of course you got the Charlotte Hornets and the Chicago Bulls. Those are winnable games for the Philadelphia 76ers. So yeah, do you think that everything you just said is going to come in fruition during those upcoming games at least?
Everything I said in terms of what they need to do?
In terms of like having that attitude, that winning mindset, like what are you going to do? Like what are you going to do about all the struggles that you're having this point of the season? Like is the bench going to get involved more? Is Embiid going to have more help offensively?
I think it's going to take some time to see how this all kind of pans out. I think it's not going to happen overnight. I think they got to get more into the season to kind of really make those things into habits. I think that offensively, I think they're going to keep playing how they've been playing, and that Max is going to keep improving. But I think it's just like when it gets down to like the playoffs and stuff, that's when you're going to see like, has the team mentality, has that attitude come together. I think it's going to come down to the playoffs. Like, what's Embiid's attitude going to be? Is he really going to be that kind of guy or is he not? I think it's just all playoff kind of future talks. Because I think right now it's a building point. They got to build all that up. But when it comes down to the playoffs, then you'll see, like, is it clicking? Is it working? Is it sticking? You'll see that in the playoffs. It's too hard to tell right now because it's still very early on.
Yeah, you just got past the in-season tournament, which the Lakers did win earlier this week. So, yeah, anything can happen for the rest of the season going forward. And while one of the Lakers, I mean, what are your overall thoughts on the Lakers run to the in-season tournament cup? And how will this elevate the Lakers as far as getting back to the championship pedigree that even though they kind of already back after making it to the conference finals last year, but what will this do for LeBron James' legacy?
I think LeBron is always going to want to win anything, especially if it's a first of something, like he said. Like, he was happy that he won the first of something, and he's the first MVP of the tournament ever. So I think LeBron just has a winning DNA, and he wants to win. So I think that's big. And I think with this tournament, I think it really helped to show that when the Lakers play well and AD is playing great, they can truly dominate because AD is such a big force and no one can guard him really in the league. I mean, only a few people can guard him. So I think if AD is going on all cylinders, they see, we can be dominant. They dominated the Pacers in the paint. So I think the Lakers are always a end of the year team more than with like the LeBron Lakers. Like, they always play better when the stakes are higher. And that's just, it sucks because you wish things could be more competitive throughout the season, but anytime you kind of get like games 60 and up, 70 and up, 60 and up, that's when people get more competitive. So I think the Lakers are always going to be like that playoff, we get hot, the playoff kind of team. But I think in terms of their pieces, they're still missing pieces. Like Gabe Vincent is sitting, he's hurt still. Vanderbilt just came back, Hachimura just came back. And I think Reeves is a really great, like, kind of like man off the bench, but just like a great, like, sleeper piece, he's good. But if AD plays really well and LeBron plays like he always plays and he dominates, I think the Lakers have a good shot for sure. I think AD is like, he's crazy. Like if AD can stay healthy and make it to the playoffs and make it through the playoffs, then I think the Lakers, they always have a solid chance because LeBron is just a winner. And then AD, he's just a force that not many can stop. And then if you have key role players, that's important. See, I think that's something the Sixers lack. The Sixers need to figure out who their role player is going to be that's going to step up in those moments when they need it. You got your superstars, but who's going to be that role player outside of Tobias, Maxey, and Embiid that's going to make a difference? And I think the Sixers have to figure that out. But the Lakers, I think who their role player is going to be. They got LeBron, they got AD, that's the 1-2 punch. And then you're going to get Austin Reeves coming up to make, timely shots. And then you got Russell who can be hot and cold. And then you got Vanderbilt with his defense. So,
okay. Mitchell Robinson is going to be out 8 to 10 weeks with an ankle injury. What do the Knicks have to do in order to change up the offense, especially with the coming games?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think the problem with the Knicks, the positive of the Knicks is Jalen Brunson, obviously. He's like a stud. He's worth all the money that they gave him. But the problem, I think, honestly, is Julius Randle. I just see Julius Randle as just,
he's so inconsistent. One minute he's going to give you a 40 ball. The next minute he's not showing up.
Yeah, he's inconsistent. And the problem with Julius Randle is, I'm not saying that he's not an improved player. Like he's definitely a way more improved player than he was on the Lakers, back in those days, and him on the Knicks. He's done some decent things. But I think overall, Julius Randle, his problem is he just thinks that he's supposed to be like him. And it's you're not really him. You need to just play your role. You're a big man. You're a 4. Do your thing. Take the shots when they're there for you. But stop. Right, but stop trying to be the answer to everything. You're not the answer. Play your role. I think that's the problem with him. And then it's when things aren't going well and he's not getting the ball, it's all over his demeanor, his face, his attitude, his defense starts to lag. And you can't have something like that on the Knicks, on the team. Just because you're not getting the ball or things aren't going your way, you can't just lag off on the defensive end. His whole attitude, you can see it in his face and his demeanor when he's not getting what he wants. And that's not winning mentality. You're not going to win that way. And it goes into DNA of a team. Randall, just because you're not getting your shots and because Brunson is a playmaker and he makes shots and he passes out for his team and he tries to give everyone looks. When Randall gets the ball, he's holding the ball for how long he wants to hold the ball for. He's dribbling, he's trying to back down, and then he's taking whatever low percentage shot he wants to take. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. But Randall, to me, isn't a team player, and that's the biggest issue with the Knicks with Robinson being down because, yes, they're missing that 4'5" wingspan guy. But I think, they have decent pieces. Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart comes off the bench. And that young guy, I forget his name, with the curly hair.
Hartenstein and Jericho Sims.
Yeah. So I think they have decent pieces, but they're definitely going to feel that missing, that big guy, that protection, that paint protection is going to be big. But Randall can help kind of alleviate that a little bit, but he needs to be more versatile. He's just too stuck on being him all the time. It's just play defense and take the shots when they come to you. That's it. You're doing too much. So I think Randall has to kind of fix his whole attitude because it's really a detriment to the Knicks. It is. When he plays and things aren't going right, every time I watch them, I always see that from him. It's what are you doing? So that's what I think. With Mitchell Robinson out, I think they're going to be missing that length, that spacing. But, I mean, not spacing, kind of spacing because everyone doesn't kind of do their thing because he's handling down low. But I think that Julius Randle needs to get it together, period. If you don't get it together, just forget it. He's too much of a big part of their team, and what he does affects them.
Yeah, Julius Randle does need to step it up, especially when you're going up against teams like the Milwaukee Bucks or the Celtics. Jalen Brunson is a breath of fresh air in the point guard position, but you're going to need more than that if you're going to compete in the Eastern Conference. Last year, you couldn't even defeat an AC Miami Heat team, and they went all the way to the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, with Brunson, I think that the Knicks upward value is there more, but I do think they're not quite I don't know if they're all the way there yet. I know they don't really allow, they're pretty good defensively this season, but I mean, I just think that the Knicks always just kind of have a little hitch in their step. So I'm not too like sold on the Knicks' future, especially with I just don't think they're even keeled on all positions, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And you know what? They need to try to attract big name stars. They have 11 picks, 11 draft picks, and they're holding on to it for what? You didn't want to trade RJ Barrett for Donovan Mitchell. You weren't bad enough to get Zion Williamson or John Morant. And they were and you see Tyrese Halliburton's been balling out for the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks passed up on him for Obi Toppin, and he's playing for the Pacers now. So it's not so much just the Knicks not playing up to their potential. It's that they're not getting the stars or the type of help they need to get to that championship caliber team.
But that's always an issue that they have. Like they always have a hard time getting people to come. Like when KD was trying to figure out where he was going, it was like between the Nets, the Knicks, and like I think the Suns obviously was an option. And the Knicks just always have a problem getting people. You would think like, why? It's New York. It's the Mecca. Like it's like the best place, the best city in the world. Like I love New York. I don't like, but it's like New York comes with a different set of expectations, a different kind of fan base. And New York Knicks fans, like it's like a real pressure. Like, yo, you gonna be good or not? You balling out or not? And the Knicks just always seem to kind of run into they're close but no cigar. Like when Melo came, that whole thing, like Melo back to the city, hometown. So I think with the Knicks, they can't get anybody because it's just the culture of the Knicks in a way. It doesn't have the best reputation. Just like the Sixers though too. Like the Sixers find it hard to get people too. Like they got Kelly Oubre, who was a steal. I love Kelly Oubre. He's great. But I think that sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think that the Knicks they're just not known to have the best DNA, if that makes sense. So people aren't really drawn. The people want to win. And the Knicks always kind of get some pieces, they never get it together. So I think that kind of hurts them too. Because New York is like a really great market, but it's like people want to win. And the Knicks just haven't won in a very long time. Even when they were at their heights, they still didn't win. So it's like
yeah. The Knicks, they have a tough road trip coming up. They have the Toronto Raptors tonight, but then they have a long road trip against teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. So only time will tell whether or not the Knicks will actually get to compete with some of the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. They're 12. They're 8-0 against teams with a bad record, but they stink against the teams with a plus 500 record.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that just shows you teams that play up to the competition. When the spotlight is on and they need to win and they feel like they're underestimated, that's when they play really well and they come and beat the team. Like, yeah, like we beat that team, thought we weren't gonna win. But it's just like it's the consistency, it's the overall team and what they can produce night in, night out. That's big. I mean, even like look with a team like the Bucks, they're still kind of figuring it out with Dame. Dame's new to the team. Obviously, they lost Drew Holiday. They lost what's his name? The one that played for the he's on the Suns now. Grayson Allen, who was on their team last year, and he lost a couple pieces. So I think it's the Bucks are kind of trying to figure themselves out with the superstar like Dame and a superstar like Giannis. And I think they're in a better situation because Giannis is so humble. He just wants to win. He don't care. Like he's not trying to be one up. Like I'm the man. He just wants to win. So I think it's just adjusting to Dame and how he plays and kind of like the new look they have because they're not as defensively sound as they were when Drew Holiday was on because the defender that Drew Holiday is not the defender that Dame is.
Yep. That's pretty much it. Well, hopefully everything falls into fruition for all the teams we just talked about on the show as we come to an end. Thank you so much, Carmen. And don't forget to check out our podcast, Hoops with Carm, and can't wait to continue doing more shows like this.
Yeah. I thank you for having me. My Instagram is _Carm, CARM. Follow me. I'm on Twitter. And yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm glad we got to talk sports. I love talking sports. Anytime you want me back on, I'd love to come back. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. And, this NBA season should be an interesting one. And I'm excited to see how the rest of the NFL season plays out.
Yes, I'm excited indeed. For Carmen, Rafika Luzon, we'll see you next time.
Bye.